Perfect. How you been? How's your day been?
Yeah, pretty full on. It's busy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can imagine. Good on you. Well, look, thank you for coming back. So yesterday we spoke about the daily grind. So today's today we're going to be talking about the ideal lifestyle. So what does life look like when things are good? There's no boundaries, there's no showstoppers, you've got all the wealth, you've got the lifestyle that you want. What does life look like? Okay. I might ask you, actually, Paul, what does your ideal life look like?
Um, I guess to be content.
Okay. Perfect. And
Uh,
what is content? What does content look like?
um, not 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 stressed out, not um on an even playing field, I guess. So yeah, content would be, I guess, like yeah, you're gonna have things to deal with here and there, but not on an intense daily basis sort of thing.
Yep. Okay. Perfect. So what I'm hearing is that you don't want to feel stressed, you don't want to feel pressured, you want life to be, do you want life to be easy? Is that what you want?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right, perfect. So that sounds really nice. What does life look like easy? Like,
Um, yeah, not the word I was going to say complicated, but yeah, like um, I guess like a example of it would be when you go on holidays. That would be content. Like if you go on a holiday and you don't have stresses at work and or
yep.
the rest of the day, whatever you deal with.
Okay, perfect. So that sounds nice. That sounds nice. Now, if life was constantly a holiday, do you think that that would be a good thing or a bad thing? Do you think that you would get bored at some point, or do you think that that would be a nice way to live?
Depends on the holiday. Like,
True that. Okay.
if it's like a one where you're not enough to sort of relax and suss out a place, but then you go into the next one, so it's constantly exciting. To the next place and the next place, that sort of thing.
Okay, perfect. So, what I'm going to say might shock you and might shock some people watching this. Fundamentally, people who want perpetual holidays are escaping from life. Now, the reason for that is because when life gets tough, we want to run away. And understandably so. There's only so much we can take until we get to the point where, you know what, this sucks. I don't want to be here anymore. But the ideal lifestyle is not about stopping a tough life. It's about having routines and systems in place that keep you going. Okay. Prioritizing yourself first, giving yourself permission to prioritize yourself. So, for example, giving yourself permission to go out on hikes every now and then, giving yourself permission to do a workout, to look after your eating habits, to have healthy eating habits, to spend quality time with your family, to say no when necessary and to say yes when necessary, to consciously do things that prioritize your peace and happiness. All right. Now, the way that this generally works to have the ideal lifestyle is, and we touched on this a bit yesterday, so it is kind of flowing from the daily grind to having the ideal lifestyle is you want to be in a place where you embrace discomfort from the sense of when discomfort comes, you have that growth mindset of this is happening for me, not to me, and it's happening so that I can learn more about myself and grow into a better version of myself. Okay. Now, the ideal lifestyle. would have a balance between tension and release. So that would be things like stress and recovery. You need the balance between the two. It's just like going to the gym and having a workout, right? Or doing some intense physical activity. You need to feel the pain to break the muscle so that the muscle can repair itself stronger. So you're going to do the intense workout, but then you need to rest to make sure that you give your body capacity to recover. You need to make sure that your eating habits are healthy so that your body has the nutrients that it needs and the basic building blocks that it needs so that you can have the body that you desire and the muscles for the muscles to grow. Okay. So it's a balance between tension and release. All right. So what you'll find is Tony Robbins. I talk about Tony Robbins a lot. He's taught me a lot. So basically, he's what we call a biohacker. I think I mentioned. Did I mention biohacking yesterday? Too? Yeah. So biohacking is basically people who who have a lifestyle where they integrate activities that stress their mind, body, and spirit to the point where that stress becomes, or that stressor becomes a catalyst for growth. Okay. And then when you're in that rest phase, it feels amazing. It's like you have the best sleep ever. When you're watching TV, you know you've earned it. When you're with your friends, you're just really embracing the moment. Okay. So you embrace that moment because you've done the hard work. And when you're rested, you do the hard work because you enjoy it, knowing that you're going to have that rest time. So it's that tension and release. Okay. Is this making sense to you or not? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. So holidays are good. Don't get me wrong. We need holidays, and you know, people who are successful, people who have the ideal lifestyle, definitely have holidays because you do need a break. You do need that time to reset. But when we're talking about the ideal lifestyle, what we're really talking about is the day-to-day stuff. So the average week. All right. So in your average week, and I might ask you this, and what I'll do is I'll also share. I mean, I'm living my ideal lifestyle, so I'm going to be sharing with you what I do on my average week. But before I do, what would you like? What do you want, Paul? What does your average week look like? What is your ideal average week?
I haven't really, I haven't really stopped to think about that. It's on autopilot, so it's just do to survive basically. Like it's
Yep.
yeah. I mean, if I guess for me, I guess my ideal week would be probably there probably wouldn't even be much in the routine. It would be more my state of mind that would change as opposed to necessarily massive changes around me. But yeah,
Perfect. Perfect. So tell me about that. So all right, I'm gonna tell you a little story, which I think is gonna help you to kind of flow with this. All right, because you're right, it definitely is a mindset thing, and we're not talking about huge changes. Okay, so the this is a true story actually. It's part of the book called Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits is written by James Clear, and basically James Clear, the author, he got smashed. He was a baseballer. He got smashed in the face with a bat in baseball, and his nose literally caved in. He nearly died. He had to go to surgery. He was blind for a little bit. Really bad things happened to him. But Atomic Habits is based on he through that experience, he had to make small changes, lots of small changes in his life to get back to full health. It wasn't one big change. And in his book Atomic Habits, he actually talks about the British bicycle team. So the British cycling team, they were really, really bad. They'd never won an Olympic record. They'd never won an Olympic medal. They'd never won a Tour de France. They were so bad that bicycle companies didn't want to sell them bikes because they were worried it would tarnish the brand name. That was how bad they were. So the British cycling team, they hired this man, and I cannot remember his name. I think it was Broomsfield or something like that. But they hired this man to become the what do you call it? The performance director, to increase to make the British team better. So what this man did, he came on board and he did not make big changes. His philosophy was all about making small changes, 1% changes every day. It's called marginal gains, very small gains every day over a long period of time. And the sort of changes that he made were things like changing the seats on the bicycles on the bikes to make them that little bit more comfortable. Um, changing the pillows that the athletes would sleep on at night to make their sleep that little bit better. He painted the inside of the bus that stored the bicycles white, and the reason he painted it white was because you can see dust, and if there was dust, he wanted to make sure that the space that the bikes were in was clean. All of these little things. There were thousands of other changes. They got the cyclists, the indoor cyclists, to use outdoor cycling gear because it was more aerodynamic. They were wearing biometrics or analytics. They were wearing gear while they were cycling so they could measure their heart rate, their breathing, all the body stuff to make sure to see if they could make one small change, like one small change in the breathing, for example, to add one little more millisecond to the performance. Like very, very minor changes, but all of these changes added up to make a huge improvement. These marginal gains compounded after they got him on board. The cycling team ended up winning something like 68 gold medals. They won 5 Tour de France's in a row after making these small changes. All right. And so it's very easy to think, oh, ideal lifestyle. Yeah, I don't know what that looks like. Of course not, because what we're doing is when I'm asking ideal lifestyle, the first thought that goes in, shit, that's huge. How can I get there to where I am now? I get it. I get it. I've been there. All right. And we're going to be talking about bridging the gap tomorrow. Tomorrow is all about getting from where you are to your ideal lifestyle. But remember that your ideal lifestyle is not an overnight thing. It happens over a course of time. You've got to be patient, persistent. So remember the three pillars of success is mindset, accountability, and persistence. So if you have those three core values, you will get the lifestyle that you desire and that you deserve. All right. But the point of today is all about already being in that lifestyle. So I want to invite you again, Paul, with the understanding that you're not going to make big changes. You're going to make lots of little changes. Have a think about what little changes you want to make to have that ideal lifestyle. So what does that look like for you?
I think changing changing mindset, but it's even because I tend to be a lot half empty sort of thing, than half full with a
Hmm.
lot of situations. So it's and also I think it intertwines to confidence as well because if not confident within myself, and whether that be socially or whether that be at work,
Mm.
then that kind of how to explain it, like it kind of drags you down because then it's just like not good enough, and then not being good enough, and to look at things half empty all the time, you can kind of imagine the cycle and that
I
pitch on
do.
that.
I
So yeah,
get that. I get that. And what you're and what you're doing is you're looking at it from the perspective that you're in right now. You know what I
yeah, well,
mean?
exactly,
And
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So what I want to do is I want to invite you, Paul, to look at it from a glass half full, that you already have the lifestyle that you want, and I want to invite you to share what that looks like. And I'll give you an example. It might look like you having a healthy body, the body that you want. It might look like you having a wife and three kids. It might look like you choosing your working hours. It might look like you running your own business. It might look like you being financially independent. You don't have to worry about money. It might look like you being a nomad and just traveling around the world. That's a lifestyle many people enjoy, just traveling around the world, not even caring about money. They just get joy in the traveling and in learning new cultures. That's very well may what it look like. What does yours look like?
it's hard, yeah, it's hard to say as far as yeah, it's hard to say ideal or how it would look like because I think the thing is that till the mindset changes, it doesn't matter where you are. So, like for example, um, we use the traveling around the world and all that. Like, if I got the same mindset I've got now, I'm still going to look at things the same way as I do there. It's just that I'll be in a different environment, and the idea of say traveling around the world sounds great, but then the novelty of where we are, and then I'm still stuck in my own mindset. So,
Okay, well, let
yeah,
me. What you're saying makes perfect sense. Let me ask you another question. What do you want? What do you want in your lifestyle then? Let's
yeah,
we
I
know that you
think
haven't got it yet, but what do you want in your lifestyle then?
um, I think there's different layers, but I guess yeah, on the physical sense, it'll be like to be independent, not worry about and all that sort of stuff, house and all that sort of stuff.
Perfect.
But
So you own your house.
yeah, all
You're
that
you're
sort of
you own your
yeah,
house. You're financially independent.
yeah, all that
Okay.
sort of thing.
And what does financial independence look like for you? Like, is it through a property portfolio? Is it through running your own business? Are you an entrepreneur? What does that look like for you? Are you working for someone? Like, what does that look like for you?
I guess yeah, I mean at the moment, obviously, so I guess I yeah, I mean when I was doing for example, when I was doing the videography stuff and doing that on the side, like at one point I had like this sort of vision of um, doing it on weekends, and eventually that will take over, and then I'll, be running that and getting other people involved and all that at one point. But life happens and things change. So, but I guess,
Do you still
yeah,
want that?
so it's like a mixed thing for me now because I mean now that I've got older and stuff, I guess the passion is still there, but not the same as it was when I first was doing it.
Mm,
And
yeah.
it's just like it's sometimes like yeah, like I because I was more into like the editing and that sort of stuff, but in order to get footage, so I have to shoot it myself. So I was pretty passionate about it at that time. But now I think back sometimes and I'm thinking I just remember the stress, like having to get this done in this time frame, but also was never content. Speaking of content, never happy with the final result, no matter how good people said that they were happy with the final, I wouldn't be. So one, it was like a double-edged sword. It's like once I had a passion, but on the other side, I was never happy with it, and I was stressed out at times with it. So it's
Yeah.
sort of yeah.
Okay. All right. So, how come you weren't happy with it? Are you a perfectionist by nature? Like you like things to be perfect? And
Uh, yeah, I laugh because I don't know. I look at my parents and it's like you can see I'm kind of both ends of the spectrum. I sort of joke and call myself a messy perfectionist because on one hand,
I love it.
like you'll have yeah, growing up and stuff, mum was so everything had its place at home, like mantelpiece and everything was perfect. And then you got dad on the other hand just had paperwork just scattered around he knew where everything was, but if you walked in there was just like paperwork and just stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
And so for me it's just like a combination of both. So um I mean as far as perfection when I can that sort of stuff, the way I looked at it is something like a wedding or and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, you're kind of breaking up there, Paul. I'm not sure if it's your internet or my internet. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'd see that. I
Yeah,
can now is just sort of
yeah, okay.
dropping a little bit, but I think it's come back.
Yeah, I can hear you. It's just that your screen has frozen, so you're kind of yeah, okay. So, look, okay, cool, you're back. Perfect. There you go. Oh,
Okay.
perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, much better. Much better. I
Yeah.
can see you clearer. Awesome.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, all right. So, what I'm hearing is you want to be in control of your financial destiny. You enjoy photography and editing. You're a messy perfectionist. I love that term, messy perfectionist. Perfect. Um, you want to be financially independent. What does your lifestyle look like? When you get up in the morning from when you go to sleep, what do you want to be doing during the day? What do you want to be doing during that time?
Um, in a summary, I guess would be to be challenged, but to be in control. Because I mean, like I've
Yes.
come like before doing what I'm doing with the tech support, it's like it's opposite ends to the spectrum. So before I was doing logistics, Stormer, Forky, all that sort of stuff. And it got to the point that I could do that with my eyes closed. It was just mundane and
Hmm.
all the rest to it. Um, but now doing what I'm doing, it's like the opposite. It's constantly challenged. You don't know what you're going to get. It's
Hmm.
constant. It's more
Yep.
one. And so the ideal, I guess, would be the two where I'll be challenged, but I'll be in control of the challenges.
Perfect. All right. Love it. You've actually hit the nail in the head because that's what I'm talking about between the tension and the release. So the challenge is the tension, and the in control would be the release. So you control the narrative. Okay, perfect. Well done. And this is something that you'll find people like Dick Smith, people like uh, who else? God, there are so many. Arnold Schwarzenegger. These people, they push themselves to the limit. They challenge themselves, but they're in control. They know exactly what they want. They go for it. They're in control. They push their limits beyond, in fact, they don't even push their limits. To them, there are no limits. This is the thing. Okay, limitations are they're a mind created thing. There really aren't any limitations in what we can do. Okay, and this is the growth mindset. So thank you so much for sharing that. So I might share with you about my lifestyle. Would you like me to do that? Share with you what my lifestyle, because for me, I have a very ideal lifestyle for me. Okay. And the thing is, it's not perfect. It's not, and I don't want it to be perfect. You don't want your lifestyle to be perfect. You always want there to be room to grow. And in fact, the ideal lifestyle is it incorporates flexibility, and it also incorporates seasons. Okay. it's very easy, and a lot of people fall into this trap of thinking once I have the lifestyle that I want, that's it. No, never. It's always changing and it's always evolving and it's seasonal. So your lifestyle and it can be seasonal as in with the seasons as well. So summer, autumn, winter and spring, you can have different lifestyles to suit each of those. We can have seasonal lifestyle in terms of our mood. We are going to have happy times and we are going to have miserable times. And we can have, and I do this a lot with my clients as well, you can have funk plans. You can have a lifestyles for those funk times, for the times when life sucks. That might include giving yourself permission to have a little bit of junk food and being okay with that. But then what you do is every bit of junk food you have, you might add 10 push-ups to it. All right. So you have that balance and you can feel good and be okay with that. Okay. So lifestyle, when we talk about lifestyle, we do talk about certain things that are constant that we do need to do all the time, regardless of the season and the funk. But then we have the flexible component to it as well, which are the bits that we change based on the season, based on, life circumstance. We have to be flexible with that. Now, that kind of mimics, we were talking about yesterday about happiness and sadness and how they're transient emotions, but we can have that sense of underlying peace. All right. Well, that's an analogy of lifestyle. So you'll have that underlying piece will be the things that you do regardless. So they're non-negotiables. And then you do the transient stuff which shifts. So for me, there are a number of things that I incorporate in my lifestyle. So what I want to do is I want to break down a few of the things that I do, and I'm going to explain to you why I do them. I'm not going to go through everything, okay? I can't go through everything, but I'm going to go through the big stuff, through the stuff that I pretty much do every day, okay? So the first thing I do every day is I make sure that I don't sleep past 8 a.m. Okay, I make sure that I get up early. Okay, and there's a couple of reasons. The reason is I make sure that I have a schedulized sleep routine. Now, this is something that you will find that I'm not going to say all. This fluctuates from person to person. Some people have really horrid routines, but they're able to function because they're aligned with their people. Elon Musk is one of them. Elon Musk has a horrid routine with his sleep wake cycle. Richard Branson from memory as well. People who are really good at it would be people like Ariana Huffington. She's huge on sleep. She started the Huffington Post. She's huge on sleep routine. Okay. Now, the reason why I make sure that I go to sleep at a certain time and wake up at a certain time is because I want to make sure that my body clock is synchronized with as much as possible with the rise and fall of the sun. Okay, so we our body has evolved in alignment with nature. Okay, our circadian rhythm is our body's natural clock, the body clock. Okay, so it runs roughly on a 24-hour cycle. It dictates when we wake up, when we sleep, when we get hungry, and a whole bunch of other things. So the first thing I do is I make sure that I don't get up any later than 8 a.m. On Monday to Friday, I'm normally up between 5 and 5:30 a.m. Okay. If I can, I watch the sunset. Okay. The sunrise, sorry, because watching the sunrise helps wake me up. Okay. The other thing I do, and I do two of these a day, is I have cold showers. I have a cold shower in the morning and a cold shower in the evening. All right. The way I do that is I actually start off in the cold, then have the warm, then have the cold again. But if you're new to this, you want to start off with the hot, and have your warm shower, and then go to the cold. So you were talking about confidence, Paul, before. Having cold showers is very, very powerful for boosting confidence. Okay. So a lot of the time, um, the lack of confidence that we feel, the lack of resilience that we feel, the reason why we feel trapped is because we are stuck or we feel like we're stuck in pain that's happening to us. Okay? When you willingly put yourself into an uncomfortable situation, and I can't remember, I don't know if I touched on this yesterday or not, I can't remember if I touched on this yesterday, but when you willingly put yourself through something that's uncomfortable, that is painful, our tolerance to pain actually goes up. This is a mindset thing. Wim Hof is known as the Iceman. Have you ever heard of Wim Hof, Paul?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. So Wim Hof, he's known as the Iceman. He has climbed Mount Everest in just shorts. He has run a marathon in the Antarctica. He swims in ice cold water every day. Okay. He has ice baths every day. He incorporates breath work. All right, I'll talk about breath work after, but this is more about the cold. So Wim Hof, his story is quite profound. His wife, or his partner suicided. I think it was in the 1990s at some point, and left him with four children. He has four children. She jumped off. She jumped off. I think the fourth story of the building that they were living in. And the way that he was able to work through that trauma was immersing himself in the cold. Okay. So that was the trigger. That actually was the trigger for his journey into changing the world. So Wim Hof is now world renowned. He holds, oh God, I think 14 world records. He trains people all around the world. He's trained some of the world's top athletes, including Serena Williams. And I don't know his name, but there was a what do you call the BJJ fighter? There was a BJJ fighter as well. He's trained people from all around the world and in from all sorts of sports as well. He also trained. I think he also worked with David Beckham from memory. Don't quote me on that, but I think David Beckham rings a bell. But the point is that he's trained elite athletes, okay, and he's got them into cold immersion. In fact, now cold plunges is pretty much routine for athletes after training. Okay, and I train athletes as well, and I talk to them about cold plunges, and they're always telling me, "Yeah, we already do that. Perfect, wonderful." So when you're in the cold, that triggers a whole bunch of chemical reactions in your body. Okay. The first thing that happens is your vascular system, which is your nerves and your veins, they start to constrict and expand. Okay. The reason that happens is because it has to keep your core temperature warm. Your core temperature can't drop below 37 degrees Celsius. If it gets too cold, you get hypothermia and you die. Okay. So your body has mechanisms in place to keep your body temperature warm. Okay. Now, generally what you will find is people who are in cold and they don't understand the way the body works and they panic and they stress under that intense panic, they're not in control. If you're not in control, that's when you can get really sick and get hypothermia and die. If you are in control, you will maintain complete health in the whole time. You'll be perfectly fine. Okay. And this is why we're not going to say, yeah, go into the middle of the ocean now and jump into freezing cold water. You want to do it in increments. Okay. So you want to do, start with like a 1 minute cold shower after your warm shower, then bring it up to 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then start with a cold shower, have your warm shower, then end on your cold, and then eventually start with 1 minute ice baths and then move to 3 minute ice baths. And you want to be averaging about 11 minutes of ice baths a week. So averaging 11 minutes a week. There is there are plenty of studies that show that people who like, the difference between pain and suffering, and I explained that yesterday, didn't I? The difference between pain and suffering. So ice baths is a version of you willingly putting yourself into pain. Okay. And that builds confidence. And so this is why I incorporate it into my lifestyle. There's a whole bunch of other reasons, including dopamine increase, norepinephrine increase, all that sort of stuff. There, plus really good for anti-inflammation, for gut health. So many benefits. It really is the magic, magic pill per se is having ice baths. So I do that twice a day, every day, twice a day. I have an ice bath. I have a cold shower in the morning and a cold shower at night, and that works for me. All right. Tony Robbins he's got an ice bath in his house and he does ice baths every day. Um, the other thing I do, I incorporate, and I just want to be clear, these are things that I do regardless of whether I'm happy or sad. Okay, I've got the discipline now to make sure that I persist with getting up before 8 and and having a cold shower in the morning and in the afternoon. Okay, in the evening when I get home. The other thing I do is I do Wim Hof style breath work every day, at least once, and at least in the morning. Okay. So Wim Hof breathing is an intense sort of breathing. So, okay, it's a very intense sort of breathing. I won't get into the details of it now. It's actually part of the course that I'm running. But basically, it goes it goes for between 11 minutes in the shorter version, but I add a little bit more into it and I do it for about half an hour. And sometimes I do it twice a day. Okay. Now, the reason that I do the Wim Hof style breathing is because it triggers my endocannabinoid system. Now, I'm not going to ask you to divulge this, Paul. This is not a question for you. But there are people who smoke marijuana. Okay. Now, marijuana has two active constituents in it. Okay. It has CBD and THC. They're the main active constituents that give you the high, and that is the painkiller or the antidepressant. Now, the reason why our bodies have the capacity to integrate those molecules into it is because our body has what's known as an endocannabinoid system. Okay, our body is actually designed to have those. It has enzymes in our body designed to connect with those molecules. Our body actually has the capacity to create this molecules that are equivalent to CBD and THC. They're equivalent to the active constituents of the cannabis plant. So in the body, the chemicals are called anandamide and AG2. Okay. And when you do breath work, you trigger the release of those chemicals in your body. Okay. So the reason I do breath work is because, and I think I mentioned this to you guys yesterday as part of yesterday, the best gift that we can give to our friends and family is the best version of ourselves. To be the best version of ourselves, we need to find mechanisms that help us stay centered and at peace. For me, doing the breath work gives me that. Now, I work with people every day. This is what I do for a job. I'm a counselor, I'm a life coach. I help people become the best versions of themselves. In order for me to do that for them, I have to embody that. Okay. And this is why, another reason why I do this breath work at least once a day, sometimes twice a day. Okay. Another thing that I incorporate into my daily routine is intermittent fasting. I normally have one meal a day. Okay. Sometimes two, mostly one. If I'm doing an intense workout regime, I may have two or three. So I do fluctuate. That fasting does fluctuate. So I will be doing some sort of fasting, but the type of fasting I do, it depends. That's where it becomes more seasonal. That's where it depends on am I on season, off season? What am I doing in terms of my workout? What sort of, what sort of deadlines have I got at work, in my own job, in my own business? If I have to use more cognitive abilities, if I have to think more, um, I might do more fasting. And the reason I'll do more fasting is because I want to promote a state of what's called ketosis in my body, which helps me with my thinking. I'll get into that after. So I generally do one meal a day, and normally it's dinner. Okay, so I normally don't eat during the day. I'll have coffee. I'll have a few cups of coffee, but I normally won't eat during the day. And if I do, I'll eat the first thing in the morning. And when I eat in the morning, I don't have any carbohydrates. I have fat and protein. And at night, that's when I have my main meal. And depending on whether I'm in ketosis or not, I may choose to have carbohydrates. So I'm very, very conscious about what I eat and when I eat because they are both as important as each other. Okay. Before I move on, Paul, do you have any questions about this? What are your thoughts? What are you thinking? Do you have any questions? Is there anything that you want to add to this?
Um, no, not really at this stage. I mean, yeah, like when you said because a while ago, I somewhere did an ice bath, if you will, which was just literally dunking, same sort of concept, but instead of full immersion, just head in ice bucket of water, essentially that sort of thing. Um, and I'm still trying to get my head around a cold shower and that because in my like I'm guilty of even in summer like it to have a cold shower it's the worst feeling to think about like if yeah if I'd even like the hot water system went out at one point and I'd just sooner not shower like and if I did I would not be getting fully immersed it would just be just a splash to not yeah so to the whole concept of having um cold shower is yeah hard to get my head around.
So yeah, and with my newer with clients that are generally seeing me for the first time, as a standard protocol, I mean, my clients are probably watching this now. You're probably watching this now because you're watching it on the recording. They will know that a standard regime I give them is a cold shower. And normally the first session they come and see me, I will suggest a cold shower. There is a protocol that I use for them. And generally the protocol, and I'll share it with you now, Paul. Maybe you can start incorporating this into your life. First of all, the moment I say cold shower, I kid you not, 90% of them go, "What the hell?" Are you fucking kidding me? No, I'm not fucking kidding you. Because it's exactly that. It's exactly for that reason, and because they're scared of the cold. It's painful, but that's exactly the reason why you want to do it. Because you're completely safe. There is nothing bad will happen to you from having a cold shower. Only good things will happen to you. Okay. So the regime that and generally the first 1 to 3 days is the most torturous. They're the hardest ones. It takes about 10 days for it to become at least mildly tolerable. Okay. But this is persistence, man. This is mindset, accountability, and persistence. You've got to incorporate these three pillars into having a cold shower and then eventually into having a nice bath. Okay. So the regime that I normally give them is for the first 7 days, for the first week, for the first 7 days. So Sunday to Sunday, Monday to Monday, generally Sunday to Sunday, whatever day they start. For the first 7 days, uh, have your warm shower. After your warm shower, have a 30-second cold shower. Okay. The second 7 days, that 30 seconds goes to a minute. The third week, it goes from a minute to 90 seconds. And the fourth week, it goes from 90 seconds to 2 minutes under the cold shower. Now, in the fifth week, what you do is you start off with a cold shower for 30 seconds, you have your warm shower, and then you end with 2.5 minutes. And finally, the sixth week, you start off with a minute cold shower, you have your warm shower, and then you end with 3 minutes. And then you just carry on with that. After that time, your body will be conditioned enough where you can actually start experimenting with ice baths. Okay. Now, there are some people who can go straight into ice baths. it's great. For me, I did go straight into ice baths. I found it incredibly painful, incredibly difficult when I first started many, many years ago that did go back to cold showers and condition myself. And now ice baths are piss easy, right? But after that 6 weeks, start with ice baths. The way you start with ice baths is you do it 3 times a week for a minute each. Okay. The second week, you do 3 times a minute for 2 minutes each. The third week, in the ice bath, so this is like 9 weeks after you've started the cold exposure, you do 3 times a week for 3 minutes. The fourth week, you can either do 3 times a week for 4 minutes or 4 times a week for 3 minutes. So you want to get that 12 minute a week mark. And as I mentioned, that's ideal. Now, when you're in the ice, you do not heat yourself up. You always end on the cold. To get the full benefit, you want your body to heat up naturally. When your body heats up naturally, you're forcing your body to convert white fat into brown fat. Okay? Brown fat is basically fat infused with more what we call mitochondria. Mitochondria, they are the energy bits of every cell in your body has 1,500 to 2,000 mitochondria. They're the power plants of your cell. That's what gives your body energy. That's what gives your cells energy. Okay. I won't go into the whole science behind how it works. Once again, that's part of the course, which I'll introduce you to tomorrow. But I dive deep into all of this stuff to make sure that you have all the knowledge you need to push through with this stuff, to push through with the cold, breath work, all of it, so that you can have the lifestyle that you want. But I actually go through the whole strategies there. But the brown fat, suffice to say though, that the brown fat is basically fat infused with power plants that generate heat. So that brown fat becomes what we call exothermic, which means heat generating. Because you're giving your body permission to heat up naturally, your body's very clever. It's very, very clever. Nature has equipped us with everything we need to survive. Your body will make heat producing fat, and that's what brown fat is. Now, that's not bad. People think fat, that's not good. I don't want more fat. I want to lose fat. No, 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 no. Brown fat actually promotes weight loss. Okay. So cold showers and ice bath actually promote weight loss. Okay. Brown fat, there's also a direct link between the amount of brown fat that you have and your immune system, the strength of your immune system. Your body becomes superhuman. You become basically, you will be able to fight off pathogens, COVID, flus, everything. Okay. When your capacity to fight off pathogens increases proportional to the amount of brown fat that you have in your system. Now, babies are born with brown fat. They have to be, because babies can't shiver. Okay, we as we get older, we start to lose brown fat because we start developing the capacity to shiver, and shivering is what warms us up. Okay. Side note: if you start to shiver after an ice bath, good, perfect. Continue shivering. Let your body warm itself up. Okay. Shivering is actually really good, because shivering, there's a whole bunch of other things that happen in your body when you shiver, but basically it it exponentially increases the benefit of the cold. So there's nothing wrong with shivering. Okay. So when we get older, we start to lose brown fat. Okay. And the reason that we start to lose brown fat is because we get comfortable in life. First of all, yeah, we start to shiver, which is what starts to keep us warm when we get cold. But we also get comfortable in life. We work in air-conditioned spaces. We wear clothes. We don't want to feel cold. We don't expose ourselves to cold. Our ancestors, they had to wash themselves in cold water. They had to wash themselves in waterfalls. They were exposed to the elements. They were outside. They lived in caves. You know, we don't have that anymore. And so we've actually become weak. And this ties into what I said yesterday. We have become weak as a species. We really have. We've got to toughen ourselves up again. All right. So this is the power of the cold. And this is once again why I expose myself to the cold. And you'll find that, top athletes expose themselves to the cold. People like Tony Robbins expose themselves to the cold. Biohackers expose themselves to the cold because it's so fucking powerful. Okay. Um, but yeah, it's hard. You're right, Paul.
Like,
It's hard. It's bloody
like
hard, but it's good for
it's.
you.
I think there's difference doing it to psych yourself up to do it as opposed to the hot water tank goes or the hot water's running. And I just remember like those times, yeah, it wasn't a good day for the rest of the day. It kind of just put me because I wasn't expecting it, and um, it was middle of winter and stuff like that. So from that, because of that experience, like I've always just been hot shower, and it's just been jumping in, and then all of a sudden exposed to the cold when you're not expecting it either. It
Yeah.
kind of just threw me off for the
And
rest of the
so,
day.
yeah. And so what you're going to find when you do this willingly, okay, you look forward to it. Like I look forward to it now. I love it. I love ice baths. I love the cold. I used to hate it, but I love it. You actually train yourself to like it. And then what happened? And before, can you see how this increases confidence as well as I'm explaining this?
Yeah, I'm still just getting my head around the
Yeah.
because I mean the other thing too as we get into like I think when it's summer I could almost sort of go okay cold shower, but like when it's cold, like as we start going to winter and stuff like that, I'm just trying to picture the cold shower and like
Yeah,
in that.
that's when you want to do it. That's when you want to do it when it's cold. I get a lot of people saying, "Oh, I'll do it in the summer, but I won't do it in winter." And I say, "No, you're going to do it in winter." And they're going,
Yeah,
"What the fuck?" I'm like, "Yeah, you're doing it in winter." The whole idea, and remember that you've got 8,600 odd minutes in a day. You're talking about 1 minute or 3 minutes. It's such a small percentage. This is why it's called hormetic stress. It's very short term, high intensity stress that has benefit. I mean, the benefits literally last all day. When you come out of an ice bath or you finish your cold shower, you feel amazing for the rest of the day. Okay, this is powerful stuff. So yes, cold showers, breath work, fasting. Okay, I do the fasting as well. That's what I also incorporate into my daily life. Um, I also give myself permission to have days where I don't fast. So normally 1 day a week, especially when I'm with my kids, I'll give myself permission to eat something that with a bit more sugar. I'll give myself permission to eat more than I need than to eat for pleasure, to eat for what I really enjoy. Okay? Because once again, mindset. All right. If we live constantly with a regime and don't give ourselves to indulge every now and then, that can have a negative effect with our mindset because then we have nothing to look forward to. So, part of the ideal lifestyle is to give yourself permission to look forward to things, give yourself permission to cheat once a week. Okay. Give yourself permission to sleep in once a week or once every couple of weeks. Okay. Give yourself permission to just lounge around for a couple of hours and watch a movie. There is nothing wrong with that. Very, very healthy. All right. But what happens is if we do that all the time, that's when it really becomes unhealthy. If we're constantly eating crap, if we're not moving our body, if we're constantly in recovery mode, we're not getting any benefit from the recovery. You actually have to put yourself under stress. In fact, there is a U curve, an upside down bell curve. Yeah, there's an upside down bell curve where you've got um. So if you have no stress, you get bored and you don't do anything. If you have too much stress, you get overwhelmed and you won't do anything. But if you have just enough stress, then you're motivated to do something. And this is what you were talking about before, Paul, about you want a healthy level of stress and to be in control. What you're talking about is basically the middle of that bell curve where you're most efficient. Okay. And we want to incorporate that in our lifestyle, which is why you want to put yourself under stress. You want to do the cold showers, the breath work. You want to do the fasting. You want to put your body under stress, but then you want to recover. Okay. You want to have that recovery. So the other thing that I do in my lifestyle, and this fluctuates. Sometimes I do it once a week, sometimes five times a week. Generally, it's about 3 to 4 times a week. I work out. I do exercise. That's pretty pretty common for people to exercise. Okay. The type of exercise I do in my lifestyle is I like to do weights training. I like to do powerlifting. I don't do much cardio. Okay. There is most people think calories in, calories out. Most people go to the gym to do cardio because they want to lose weight. Okay. Weight is not mostly gym work. Weight management is mostly diet. And if you are doing gym work, um, more and more studies are showing that resistance training is more beneficial for weight loss than cardio. Cardio is good, don't get me wrong. Cardio is good for building lung capacity, really good for your cardiovascular system. Um, but in terms of weight loss, it's becoming more evident that you want to do resistance training. So heavier weights, slower movements. Okay. So if you want to run a marathon, though, if you want to run a marathon or if you want to do more endurance sports, then do the cardio because you need the lung capacity. So once again, there's no one size fits all with the ideal lifestyle. Your lifestyle is what suits you. It's what suits your goals. Now, this is something that's really, really important. It is so important to have your why. Okay. Your why will determine the ideal lifestyle for you. All right. Part of the reason, Paul, that you're finding it difficult to visualize your ideal lifestyle is because you haven't found your why. Okay. Um, we have it in reverse. We think once we have the lifestyle, then we'll have the meaning and we'll have the why. It's actually the other way around. Your lifestyle adapts to your why. Your why does not adapt to your lifestyle. Okay? When you have your why, your how actually sorts itself out. And it sorts itself out through your lifestyle. All right? I'll give you an example. Mike Tyson. God, did you watch the fight, the last fight that he did? You know the one I'm talking about? The
Yeah,
he Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I watched it. That was yeah, that was interesting. Mike Tyson, great boxer, world class, world heavyweight champion. His lifestyle had to suit his purpose to win boxing, his diet, his exercise regime, his mindset, his discipline. Okay, Mike Tyson famously said, "Everyone talks a big game until the first time they get punched in the mouth." And that is so true. But if you have your why, you don't care how many times you get punched in the mouth, you keep moving forward, right? If you have your why, your lifestyle, your ideal lifestyle, it's going to be challenging. It's supposed to be challenging. As we said, we need the tension and the release. Okay. But if you have your why and it's aligned with your why, you embrace the challenges. You look forward to the challenges because you know that you're growing, you're evolving, you're becoming a better version of yourself, and you're moving closer to that goal, to that mission, to that why that you know you have deep within you. You also enjoy the rest periods. You enjoy the release. You enjoy the binging every now and then because you know that that is also bringing you closer to your why because it's keeping your mind healthy. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock? Yeah. He has, for his cheat meal, freaking maniac. He has like 20 pancakes with maple syrup and fruit. That's what he has for a cheat meal. His metabolism is like he'll metabolize that because he's got such a strict routine. He'll metabolize it straight away. But the reason he does that is because he knows he needs something to look forward to. It does not compromise his why. It enhances his why. Okay? So this is why it's so important. The first step to having our ideal lifestyle is, why are we doing it? Why? What is your why? Okay, that is the single most important question. What is your why? How do you find your why? Okay. I won't go into the detail. Once again, I do talk about it in the course, but and we will touch on it tomorrow as well, because learning to find your why is going to help bridge the gap from where you are to where you want to be. All right. But I'll give you a little tip. All right. The first step to finding your why starts with intuition. We don't think about it. This is not a thinking game. This is a feeling game when it comes to our why. Don't get me wrong, it does move from the emotional into the cognitive, from the feeling into the mind, but you feel your way. You intuitively know. It's a gut feeling. I know that I'm meant for this. I want to ask you something, Paul. Do you feel like you have a purpose in life? Do you feel like there is something here that you're supposed to be doing or not?
Honestly, no. Like
No?
I feel it's more um to survive, but as far as a purpose, um I think too, like I we have purpose without even realizing it, but it's not like deep within my roots. I feel like I've got a purpose.
Perfect. But you know what you've just said? Like what you just said is spot on. And we have purpose even though we don't realize it. And this is fundamentally what I'm talking about. Now, look, our purpose, I'll give you an example. There is no right or wrong with this. Okay. And I know I talk a lot about successful people and all that sort of stuff, all right? But this applies to anything. And when I talk about successful people, it's relative. Like a successful person could be defined as someone who wants to be a cleaner. There is nothing wrong with that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Okay. You might get passion. You might love cleaning things. You might just have such an attention to detail and it just gives you such drive. And that's what you do and you're content with that. And that's beautiful. And you go home to your family and perfect. Wonderful. You're living your why. Okay. How do you find your why? What does your life need to be? What are the moments that you remember in your life when time stood still? What were you doing? Who were you with? If you can write that down, if you can remember those moments, you're on the right track to finding your why. Okay? I'll give you an example. My why, my mission, my purpose is to raise consciousness. Okay? Is to raise the consciousness of humanity and to help people move into the best versions of themselves. That's my why. Okay? How do I know that that's my why? Because I feel it. I love what I do. I work probably 12, at least 12 hours every day, sometimes 14 hours every day, including weekends. But I get up with energy and I love everything I do because I feel it. All right. I have my why. Okay. Now, because I have my why, my lifestyle is sorting itself out. And there are plenty of times when I've cried myself to sleep. There are plenty of times when I was uncertain about my purpose. Okay, there was plenty of times I thought, you know what, is this it? Is this it? but I always get back to that place where I feel this is it. Like there is something within me that always drives me back to that place because I remember, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because it's my calling, and I feel it. And then I get back into that place of empowerment. We need to sometimes go and this will happen in the ideal lifestyle. Sometimes we need to go back to that place to remind ourselves why we do what we do. Okay. It's like you've learned it's I actually tell this a lot with my anger management clients. Okay. So I see a lot of anger management clients, people who struggle with anger, people who struggle with emotional resilience, they trigger easily. They come to me, they work with me, normally over 6 weeks. And by the time we're finished, it's like, wow, I can't believe that I'm a different person. Life is good. Awesome. The seventh week, they come back to me and they said, "You won't believe what happened. The shittiest thing happened, and I reacted to it. Why am I doing this if I keep going back to the same old cycle?" And I say to them, "All right, well, let me ask you. If the same thing had happened to you 2 months ago, do you think you would have reacted differently?" And they think, "Yeah, I would have actually. I would have walked away. I would have hit the guy. I would have been, but I didn't do that this time." And I said, "There's a win." The reason why life sometimes gets shit, even if we have the ideal lifestyle, is because we need to remind ourselves why we're doing what we're doing. These people, when I ask them that, when they reflect and go, you know what, no, I did react differently. Of course they react differently because they're different people. We need to prove to ourselves. We need to be shown that we are growing, that we are changing, and the only way to do that is to be put in the same situation that happened that forced us to grow in the first place. We need to be able to see that we are now approaching that from a different perspective, from a more evolved perspective. And I can't explain it, but I see this over and over again with my clients. There is something powerful in the universe that keeps us growing. We get rest, absolutely, we get rest, but we also face these challenges. And as I said yesterday, life doesn't get easier, we get stronger. I did the train track model with you yesterday, didn't I? Yeah, that's pretty much what happens. Life doesn't get easier, we get stronger. And we need these circumstances to show. And as well, once again, with the ideal lifestyle, whatever that looks like for you, okay, we need to pivot sometimes. Sometimes we need to change something. Sometimes something stops working, and we need to be okay with that. Like for example, with my fasting, I change my fasting depending on, and I need to be okay with that. And that could change again in the future. Okay, something might happen where I might need to shift another aspect of my lifestyle. You've got to be okay with it. You've got to be flexible. Okay. Do you have any thoughts, any comments around this, Paul? What do you think about this? Is there anything you want to add to it?
Um, yeah, it's like a lot to take in. And for going back to the why, that that sort of stumps me a bit, for me to find out the why. I mean, no, I think, yeah, like on a on a daily basis, that sort of stuff. It just, no matter what I look at the moment, it just, the why just keeps resorting back to survival. Like it's not, yeah, the instinct basically. So, um, same way like animals, anything else, like they do what they do to survive, and that's what the why for me at the moment kind of honestly feels like. It's survival. It's, yeah.
So that's actually really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. What does survival look like for you? What is survival?
And survival is basically, on a very very basic level. It's like staying alive basically. But then because as we evolved and stuff, then survival gets more complex than just that. The obvious is to remain alive, and physically intact and all that sort of stuff. But then survival can also be like emotional survival or
Yep.
financial survival or whatever that is. It's yeah, like there's so many different because we're evolved and things are much more complicated
Yep.
than what they used to be. You mentioned about cavemen and look at animals and stuff. The instinct's still there to survive, but there's a
Hmm.
lot more spectrum these days, what that means.
Yep. Yep. You're spot on. In fact, what I'm going to do is just give me a second. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you something that is I'm going to show you Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is tying this is tying exactly. Just give me a second. Let's see if I can find it. Uh,
And just way to find it. I guess the problem with it is, but if it's just survival, there's no purpose.
so there's actually Maslow's hierarchy of laws talk of needs talks about this. I'm just going to share my screen. Just give me a second. Share. I want to share my screen. There we go. Hold on. Give me a second. Sorry, I've just done this through Google, so we'll see if you can read it. Can you see that on your screen?
Not yet. Yep,
Yep. Okay. Can you see the triangle?
yep.
So this is known as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So what you're talking about is there are certain needs that need to be met before we can get to higher levels of purpose, to higher levels of why. Now, what you're saying is actually very true. It's very correct. We are always embodying a why in one way or another. Now, if you're in survival mode, that's your why, and your lifestyle is going to suit that. Okay. In America, there are in the lower socioeconomic range class in America and here in Australia, like I mean, really all around the world, people who are in survival mode, struggling for food, their lifestyle is all about getting food. That's their lifestyle, and that's ideal for them in that situation. Totally get it. All right. So basically, Maslow, he put together this hierarchy of needs. So basically, the first thing that we need to satisfy, oh, shivers. What have I done? Oh, here we go. Oh, perfect. Even better. Can you see that? Is that better?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the first thing that we need to satisfy are our psychological needs. And this is what you're talking about. You're talking about um, clothing, sleep, shelter, reproduction. So basically, sex, food, water, air. So they're the basic needs that we all need to meet. Now, the way this pyramid works is we can't actually move up the pyramid until we satisfy the things in the lower end of the pyramid. Okay. So once our psychological needs are met, then we can start looking into personal safety, employment, resources, health, property. Um, okay, so that's more like your financial security. You've got a healthy body. Okay, all that sort of stuff. You're working. You've got money coming in. Okay, you feel safe. All right. So once you have your psychological needs and safety needs met, then you work into love and belonging. So this is more relationships, intimacy, family, connection. Okay, we can start opening ourselves up to this now. We can start incorporating this stuff into our life. Once we have love and belonging, safety needs, and psychological needs met, then we move into esteem. So respect, self-esteem, strength, confidence would also come into here. Status, freedom. Once we have all of these four things met, then comes self actualization. Okay. And that's the desire to become the most that one can be. And this is where evolution really comes in, self evolution, moving into the best version of yourself. Okay. So this is based from what you're saying, this is basically what you're talking about here. Does this resonate with you?
Yeah, and I'm curious what would happen if you skip steps. So say you're dealing with the bottom one and then you try to go to the second or top tier?
So what you'll find is a lot of this is it's ingrained. So it's very hard to get into esteem, for example, if you don't have your basic needs met. Okay. There are certain scenarios where you might be able to blend a couple of them. For example, you might have a family that is struggling for food and shelter. All right, but they can still have love and belonging. Okay, so there are certain types met, but your priority, if you're in that if you're in that stage, your priority is not to, you know, overcome family trauma. Your priority is to get food on the table. Okay. So this is the hierarchy of needs. So the idea with this is that you need to fulfill the lower needs before you move up. Okay. And this is also really powerful because, um, I'll just stop sharing because when it comes to the lifestyle, when we talk about ideal lifestyles, the intent of when I'm asking what's your ideal lifestyle, yes, it is talking about the self-actualization. So it's like assuming that you have everything already. Okay, that's true. That's the context in which I'm asking the question. But at the same time, the ideal lifestyle can work on any of those levels. All right. So what's the ideal lifestyle that you need to do to survive? Which sounds like is where you're at now. I mean, you mentioned that you're in survival. So, what can you do to idealize, to make that lifestyle as best as possible for you? And that might include, for example, doing everything that you're doing and being satisfied with that, and just adding a cold shower in there to build your confidence. That might be the only change you make, and that might be ideal for you, and that's okay. All right. And so we do need to be fluid. We do need to be flexible when we're talking about the ideal lifestyle. And in fact, what you'll find is that this, once again, Paul, and to the viewers watching, this ties in to bridging the gap. So, what we're going to cover tomorrow is bridging the gap from where you are to where you want to be, ideally. So, in that full self actualized state. Okay. What you're going to find is similar to what we spoke about with the the cycling team, the British cycling team, small marginal changes. That's what you do in your life. So now you have an ideal lifestyle for your survival mode. 6 months from now, you'll have an ideal lifestyle that not only covers your survival mode, but now puts you on a path to financial independence. You're not at financial independence yet, but you now have systems in place and a lifestyle in place that it now becomes achievable. Okay. A year from now, you're moving even closer to that, and you might have a family. Okay. 2 years from now, you might have bought your first property, or you might have a significant pay increase. But it's baby steps. You don't go from 0 to 100. Your ideal lifestyle changes depending on the state that you're in. Okay, you make gradual changes to your lifestyle so that it's still ideal for the moment. It's not 100% where you want it in the fully self-actualized state, but for the level that you're on, it's perfect. It's perfect. And it's serving as a stepping stone for another ideal lifestyle. Does that make sense? Does that
Yeah,
resonate? Or
yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
perfect. Is there anything you want to add to that? Is there anything that you're doing in your life now that you're really happy with?
I think it's it's weird because it's like it's not. It's probably going to be. It could be like 6 months, could be 12 months, could be a few years down the track that I'm going to realize what I'm doing now that I'm not really appreciating what I am doing. Like it sounds a bit crazy, but it's like
Doesn't it's yeah, keep going. Yeah.
um because like there's a lot of pressure, a lot of stuff going on at work, and um in the past when all that's gone on, obviously I was only in that situation there, but it's not until as I think I mentioned last night where you turn around and gone, well, if I hadn't if that hadn't happened and if I hadn't stuck with it and done that, then I wouldn't be where I am now, sort of thing. So it's I think. at the moment, yeah, in all, pretty much all areas, all aspects of my life, to be honest, it's it's about being persistent because it's a lot of times just wanting to throw hands up and that might not even necessarily mean like leave my job, but it could be taking a step back and just doing minimum that's going to bite you later on by doing that. Um, so I think at the moment it's just about yeah, for me at the moment it's about being persistence. But I think yeah, it's not going to be until I appreciate certain things that I'm doing, but it's not going to be till later when I'm wherever I'm at that time that I'll turn around and go, yeah, that was like I persisted in it and I did that, and you know that happened. But at the time, it seemed like all this. It's not till looking back, I'll sort of turn around and gone, and probably look back and gone, yeah, a couple of things I could have done better, but the things that I did right, it's I'm not going to appreciate it until later.
Yep. No, I love that, and that's actually that's actually really that's fantastic. That's really really powerful. So um, it's the choices that we make today that create the version of ourselves tomorrow. Okay. Just like the choices that we made in the past has created the version that we are now. It's not to say that we're defined. We're not defined by the choices. We're defined by the choices we make right now. That's what defines us. But we are created by past decisions. So what what a really powerful way to do thing to do on that is I love what you just said, Paul. That is so true. So true. If you can imagine, if you can picture yourself where you want to be in 10 years from now. Okay. In fact, there's a technique. There's a technique that's used in coaching. Okay. And and it goes twofold. It goes twofold. It's you look at where you are now and you look at where you were in the past, like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and you talk to yourself 10 years ago and you say, um, you know, thank you for doing this, or um, my advice to you would be to do this. Okay. So you have that conversation with your past self. So you look at yourself and go, you know what, I really love this about who I am. I want to work on this. And it's like you're having that conversation with your past self saying, look, this is where I am now. Okay. I want you to make these changes. And I want you to keep doing these things to get to where you are now. Then what you do is you project yourself in 10 years. Okay. And you ask yourself as that person 10 years from now. So you are now 10 years from now, okay? And it's like you're talking with yourself today, all right? So it's not you today talking with yourself 10 years in the future. It's the 10 years. So you embody that version of you 10 years from now, and you're talking with yourself today, okay? And you have the conversations and say, in order for me to have this, I need you to do this right now. Okay. This is what I did to get here, and this is what I want you to do so that I can be here. Okay. So you have that conversation 10 years from now. So you have the business, or you have the income, you have the family, or you have the financial independence, you have the security, you have whatever it is that you want. 10 years from now, you are that person and you're talking with the person that you are now. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually a really powerful way to um to to help you to help you make changes in your life so that you can become that version of yourself 10 years from now. Um, for example, someone who is, I'll use the weight loss example. I don't think I've touched on weight loss. So someone who's really fat now, someone who's really overweight now, and they're not happy with their weight, they might project themselves 10 years from now with the perfect body. And now they're embodying themselves with the perfect body and they're saying, you know what? This is what I did. Okay. I started today to not eat any more sugar. I started today to do a 45-minute workout twice a week. That's all I started today. Okay. And I need you to start doing that now because this is what I did to get here. And this is what I need you to do so that I can get here. All right. And you continually have that conversation with yourself and you continually adjust because the choices we make today affects our future selves. Like that's a real thing. Okay. And so don't be scared to have that conversation with your future and your past self. All right. This is really powerful stuff. This is, I mean, God, so Oprah Winfrey does this. Bloody so many successful people do this. It's really that's how they become successful because they know the choices that they need to make. I know. Richard Branson does this. Um, so that's a little tool that you can use as well to start moving into that ideal lifestyle. So look, it's nearly 8:30. We're going to be closing up this one soon, and we'll be back tomorrow to talk about bridging the gap. So how to get, and we've kind of started touching on that today. So this is all kind of flowing into one another. So you're not going to want to miss tomorrow because tomorrow we're going to talk about bridging the gap. How can you get from where you are now to where you want to be in the future? Okay, and what do you need to make that happen? Before we do finish up, Paul, thank you for joining again today. I hope you can make tomorrow. Before we finish up though, is there anything you want to add? How are you finding this? What's your experience like? Is there anything you want to add? Anything you want clarity around? The floor is yours for the next 30 seconds.
Uh, no, I think a lot. Yeah, a lot to think about. I think for me, right at the moment, um, yeah, like to think more about the why, outside survival, but it's not something to just think about and yeah, it's done. But yeah, I guess it's been interesting because it's looking at stuff I probably wouldn't normally look at it in that way. Um, yeah, and especially I get the concepts still get in my head around the cold showers. I will work through it, but no, but it's definitely like yeah, been interesting because yeah, it's sort of looking at stuff how I generally wouldn't probably dive into, and definitely wouldn't be looking at it in that sort of perspective, shall we say?
Perfect. Well, look, I'm glad you're getting benefit from here. I hope you can join again tomorrow. It probably will just be the two of us if you do. If not, I'll be doing it on my own. I'll just do it like a lecture style. And to the viewers, thank you so much for watching. I'm actually going to be running this every month. So this is going to be a monthly event for free. So this free webinar, and I'm hoping that we're going to create a little community of people that come on. We're going to bring more people on. Um, there is a course which I'm going to I'll tell you guys about tomorrow. It's a 12-week course which dives into detail about how you can like real life strategy that you can use to create the lifestyle that you want. Includes quizzes, workbooks, lectures, all sorts of stuff. But I'll talk about more about that tomorrow. But look, we are done for today. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you again, Paul, for being here, and I want to invite you again tomorrow. And yeah, we'll take it from there.
All right.
All right.
Thanks a
See
lot.
you guys.
See ya.
Bye. Bye, Paul.